Welcome to Elkmont, Tennessee. This nice little town, settled in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains, is steep in history, from the Native Americans all the way up to the lumber company to present day. Today on Our Home Tennessee, we're going to take a look back at Elkmont. So let's sit back and relax and take a walk down the street here in Daisytown, and let's explore Elkmont.
Look out across the water, I smell the salt and feel the breeze, but in my heart I hear the calling of my old home, Tennessee. Rivers flow, why the wind chooses when and where to blow. The sun is gonna rise each and every time, but I've still got Tennessee on my mind. From Reaper's Fork to Watertown, and maybe Johnson City or Memphis bound. No matter where I go, no matter what I see, I still hear the calling of Tennessee. Who we to know where these rivers flow, or why the wind chooses when and where to blow. The sun is gonna rise each and every time, and I've still got Tennessee on my mind.
Welcome to Our Home Tennessee. I'm your host, Scott. You know, Elkmont's history dates back thousands and thousands of years, all the way back to the early Native Americans and the early settlers. You know, the Native Americans were the first ones to settle in Elkmont. You know, the Native Americans relied on the land for food, shelter, and for cultural practices, which shaped their identity of the tribe. The Cherokee Indians were the first Native American tribe to settle in Elkmont and the Great Smoky Mountains. They used the land for their hunting, gathering, for their farming, used the timber to make their tools, and they used the land for their spiritual practices. Even today, with archaeological findings, tells us the tale of their existence. As the 1800s rolled around, many English settlers started moving toward the Smoky Mountains, settling farms and small communities. One of them was William Bill McCarter, who was very valuable to the start of Elkmont. You know, the first English settlers to settle along Jake's Creek was in the 1840s. The creek's namesake, Jacob Hauser, was probably the first one to arrive, later followed by the family of David Omby. David Omby moved to the area searching for gold. You know, like most Appalachian communities, the little community that popped up along Jake's Creek was simply known as Little River. And the settlers that moved here used the land for agricultural purposes, with corn, apples, and bees for honey. Hundreds, Knoxville businessman John L. English began a small-scale logging project along Jake's Creek. Now, in order to transport logs to a sawmill on the outskirts of Knoxville, English constructed a series of splash dams. Now, while English managed a small profit with this venture, his venture folded by 1900, quite possibly because of a flood that happened along Little River in 1899. But by 1901, Pennsylvania entrepreneur Colonel Wilson B. Townsend purchased over 86,000 acres of land along Little River, and he established the Little River Lumber Company. Now, he set up a bandsaw in what was Tuckaleegee Cove, present-day Townsend, and he constructed a small logging railroad between the company's sawmill and the far upper reaches of the Little River, all the way up to the Three Forks area. Now, the railroad was later extended to Walden, to the tannery, where it also connected to Maryville and to Knoxville. Now, the Little River Railroad Lumber Company employed about 10 shays, and they helped pull the heavy log cars up and down the steep grades toward Elkmont. And skidders were used to pull the logs up in Elkmont from the steeper hills. Now, when Elkmont was established in 1908, it was established as a transfer station for the railroad, where logs were removed from gear-type shay locomotives and transported over to more conventional rod-type locomotives for the trip into town. Johnson was typical of a temporary log camp, which later resembled a later-style Depression shantytown. You had your set-off houses, a post office, a hotel, that were all critical, and sheds that were critical for railroad maintenance. Now, by 1926, Colonel Townsend had sold most of his load of lumber tract to the newly created Great Smoky Mountains Park. Back in the company's early days, they allowed hunters and fishermen to use the Little River Railroad to access the deep, game-rich forest of the Smokies, as the valley was solely stripped of its valuable timber. Colonel Townsend started to advertise the area as a mountain getaway. In 1909, he started offering the Sunday Elkmont Special, a non-stop train service that ran from Knoxville to Elkmont. Now, in 1910, a group of Knoxville hunting and fishing enthusiasts formed the Appalachian Club and purchased what is now Daisytown, south of Little River to the Three Forks to Jake's Creek. Now, they built many cottages and the club on the hill overlooking it. Over the years, the club evolved into a mountain getaway. Now, by 1911, Colonel Townsend gave Carter several acres of land on a hill overlooking Elkmont. But the stipulations were that in 1 year, Carter had to have something built on the property. So by 1912, Carter had made good on his promise and opened the Wonderland Hotel. Built as a resort lodge, it had about 50 rooms, of an extensive balcony overlooking the valley and Meigs Mountain. And the Appalachian Club proved to be remarkably difficult to obtain in Knoxville. A group of Knoxville people continued to purchase the Wonderland Hotel Club, and in around 1919, 10 or so cottages were built on the hill. Now, by 1925, the lumber company had already ceased some of its logging operation and was starting to pull its tracks out of the Three Forks area and move the Elkmont tracks to what is present-day Tremont. Fearing a lawsuit from the Appalachian Club and Wonderland Hotel, Colonel Townsend ordered the tracks to be pulled up and moved in secret. Of course, the residents were outraged. Now, Governor Austin Peay had a road built that was connecting Townsend to the Wonderland Hotel and the Appalachian Club to link to Knoxville. During the construction, members of the Metcalf family constantly gave the construction workers water and food. And out of appreciation, there is now a place in between Elkmont and Wares Valley called Metcalf Bottoms, a picnic area. Now, by 1952, the remaining members of the Appalachian Club traded their lifetime leases for a 20 years renewable lease, which expired in 1972. The members of the Wonderland Club joined with the members of the Appalachian Club to form the Elkmont Preservation Society. And they were granted a new 20-year lease. On November 1992, the Wonderland Hotel last day of operation. And in 1995, the hotel was partially burned and partially lost to a fire, and again in 2016. You know, folks, we have not even scratched the surface of the history of Elkmont. There was still the CCC camp and all. But as far as present day, there is still plenty to do at Elkmont. Elkmont is very easily accessible from Gatlinburg, Wares Valley, Pigeon Forge, Townsend, very accessible. There's plenty to do. There's rivers for the kids to play in. You've got a campground, and we still have some of the cabins of Daisytown and the Appalachian Club. We have a campground at Elkmont and more, and a graveyard. If you go up some of the hiking trails, you'll still be able to go up some of the old Little River Railroad roadbed. So the next time you're in the Smoky Mountains, be sure to take a look and stop at Elkmont for fun for the whole family. I'm your host, Scott, and this was Our Home, Tennessee.